Most people think intimacy is about confidence, technique, or knowing the right moves. That's why they get it wrong. Because the truth is, if a woman feels even slightly unseen, rushed, or emotionally unsafe, her body will close no matter how skilled you think you are. Real intimacy doesn't begin with touch, it begins with awareness. It begins with the ability to slow down, to stay present, to understand that a woman's desire is not something you unlock, but something you earn through patience, respect, and emotional intelligence. And once you understand this, everything you thought you knew about pleasure changes completely. I'm going to speak about intimacy, the way grown, emotionally intelligent people should hear it. Not as a performance, not as a trick, not as a set of mechanical moves, but as an understanding of the female nervous system, the female mind, and the female need to feel safe enough to surrender. Because here is the truth most people never say out loud. A woman's body does not open when she is touched, it opens when she feels understood. The biggest mistake people make is thinking pleasure starts at the body. It doesn't. It starts in the mind. And if the mind is not relaxed, curious, and emotionally present, the body will stay guarded no matter how much effort is applied. So let's start with something uncomfortable but necessary. If the intention is to blow her mind, that intention alone already puts pressure on the moment. Women do not relax under pressure, they relax under presence. When someone is trying to impress, prove, or perform, the energy becomes about ego. And the female nervous system immediately feels that. She doesn't feel chosen, she feels evaluated. And evaluation shuts desire down. What actually creates deep physical response is when a woman feels unrushed, when she feels there is nowhere else to be, when attention is not fragmented, when the person with her is not trying to get to an outcome, but is genuinely interested in her reactions, her breath, her pauses, her shifts. Desire grows in the space where she feels she is being listened to without words. Another hard truth: most women do not want intensity first, they want attunement first. Intensity without attunement feels invasive. Attunement without intensity feels safe, and safety is what allows intensity to arrive naturally. This is why emotional intelligence is more seductive than confidence alone. A man who notices when she tenses, when her breath changes, when her energy pulls back, and adjusts without being told, this is what makes a woman feel deeply met. Women experience pleasure cumulatively, not instantly, which means everything that happens before the intimate moment matters. The tone of voice earlier, the way she was looked at, whether she felt heard in conversation, whether her no was respected at any point, whether she felt like she could be fully herself without being rushed or corrected. Intimacy is not a switch, it's a build-up of micro moments of safety. There is also something very important that is rarely talked about. Women relax when they don't feel responsible for someone else's satisfaction. The moment she feels she has to perform, reassure, or manage the other person's ego, her body tightens. True intimacy happens when she feels free to receive without guilt, when she senses patience, when there is no subtle demand underneath the touch. And this is where presence becomes everything. Presence means you are not in your head. You are not replaying something you watched. You are not following a script. You are here, fully, noticing, adjusting, slowing down when needed, staying when the moment stretches, not getting bored when it's quiet, not rushing when it's soft. Women's bodies respond to rhythm, not speed, to variation, not repetition, to curiosity, not assumption, and most importantly, to feeling desired for who they are, not just for what they can give. When a woman feels like an experience rather than a task, her body responds differently. Another mistake people make is thinking confidence means certainty. It doesn't. Confidence in intimacy means being comfortable not knowing and being willing to learn her specifically, because every woman is different. What worked before may not work now. What she liked last year may not feel right today. Real confidence says, I'm paying attention, not I already know. And let's talk about listening, not with ears, but with awareness. Her breathing tells you more than her words. Her body language tells you when to continue and when to pause. When she leans in, when she relaxes, when she goes still. Stillness is not boredom. Often, stillness is trust. Rushing through stillness breaks the spell. There is also something deeply psychological here. When a woman feels emotionally held, her body lets go. Emotional holding means she feels respected, not consumed, desired, not taken, wanted, not used. This is why gentleness can be far more powerful than aggression. Gentleness communicates safety. Safety allows depth. A woman's mind needs to feel admired, not inspected, appreciation without critique, attention without pressure. When she senses that her pleasure matters independently of anyone else's outcome, something shifts. She stops monitoring herself. She stops thinking. And when thinking stops, sensation begins. Another truth: intimacy is not about doing more, it's about doing less, better, fewer distractions, fewer assumptions, fewer goals, more awareness, more patience, more responsiveness. The most powerful moments are often quiet, slow, and deeply connected. And if you really want to understand what overwhelms a woman in the best way, it's consistency of presence. Not intensity for 10 seconds and absence after, not passion followed by distraction, but steady, grounded attention, the kind that says, I'm here with you and I'm not going anywhere. That relaxes the deepest layers of the nervous system. There's also humility involved, the willingness to let her guide without making it her job, the ability to adjust without defensiveness, the maturity to stay engaged even when it's not instantly rewarding. This is rare, and rarity is attractive. A woman feels deeply affected when she senses that her responses matter, that they are being noticed, that the moment is co-created, not taken over, when she feels like she's being explored, not rushed, met, not managed. And here's the final psychological shift that changes everything. Stop thinking of intimacy as something you do to someone. Start understanding it as something that happens between two present nervous systems. When one person slows down, the other follows. When one person is calm, the other relaxes. Regulation is contagious. Presence is contagious. If you bring calm, curiosity, patience, and genuine interest, her body will respond in ways no technique ever could, because the mind will feel safe enough to let go. And when a woman lets go, not because she was pushed, but because she was met, that's when the experience becomes unforgettable. Not loud, not forced, not performative, but deep, grounding, and powerful. And that is what actually blows a woman's mind. There is also something important about pacing that most people misunderstand. Slowing down is not about hesitation, it's about confidence. When movements are unhurried, when pauses are allowed to exist, the body feels permission to respond authentically. Rushing communicates anxiety. Slowness communicates certainty. And certainty is deeply grounding for a woman's nervous system. Another layer is anticipation. Anticipation is psychological foreplay. When attention lingers without immediately taking, when curiosity builds instead of being satisfied instantly, desire deepens. Women often experience pleasure more strongly when there is space to imagine, to feel, to lean into what's coming rather than being overwhelmed by it too quickly. And this is where restraint becomes powerful. Restraint is not lack of desire, it's mastery of it. When a woman senses restraint, she feels respected. She feels chosen, not grabbed. That restraint allows her to move toward the experience willingly instead of feeling pulled into it. There's also the question of emotional safety. Emotional safety means she doesn't feel judged for how she responds. Whether she's quiet or expressive, slow or intense, she feels accepted exactly as she is in that moment. The moment she feels self conscious, the body tightens. The moment she feels free from judgment, sensation expands. Many people underestimate how much a woman's pleasure is connected to trust. Trust that she won't be rushed. Trust that she can stop if she needs to. Trust that her boundaries are not inconveniences. When trust is present, her body responds more openly, more deeply, and more honestly. Another thing that matters deeply is focus, not multitasking, not drifting mentally, full attention. When someone is fully focused, a woman feels like the most important person in the room. That feeling alone can be incredibly powerful. Attention is one of the most undervalued forms of intimacy. And then there's attunement to energy. Energy shifts moment to moment. Sometimes it wants softness. Sometimes it wants intensity. Sometimes it wants stillness. The ability to sense and respond to those shifts without being told is what separates connection from performance. Women often feel most affected when they don't feel like they're being compared to past experiences or expectations. When the moment feels new, present, and specific to her. When she feels like she's being discovered rather than remembered. There is also something deeply regulating about consistency, not just in touch, but in emotional presence. When presence doesn't disappear the moment things slow down, when patience remains even in quiet moments, that steadiness tells her nervous system that it's safe to go deeper. Another subtle but powerful element is validation without words, responding naturally to her reactions, staying connected to her pace, letting her responses guide the experience rather than overriding them. This makes intimacy feel collaborative instead of one-sided. And perhaps one of the most important things is this. Women feel most open when they feel desired beyond the physical moment, when they sense that the connection doesn't end when the moment does, when affection, respect, and warmth continue afterward. Continuity creates security, and security allows deeper surrender. Many people chase techniques because techniques feel controllable, but true intimacy isn't controlled. It's felt, it's responsive, it's adaptive. It requires emotional maturity more than physical skill. When someone brings patience, awareness, humility, and genuine care into an intimate moment, the experience naturally becomes more powerful. Not because of what is done, but because of how it's done and why. And as long as the focus remains on presence rather than performance, on connection rather than outcome, the experience continues to unfold in ways that feel deeply personal, deeply grounding, and profoundly memorable. There is also something powerful about patience when responses are subtle. Not every reaction is dramatic. Sometimes pleasure shows up as a softer breath, a quieter stillness, a deeper exhale. When those moments are noticed and respected, a woman feels seen on a level that goes beyond the physical, and being seen is often more arousing than being touched. Another overlooked aspect is emotional permission. When a woman feels she doesn't have to rush toward a peak, she can actually go deeper into sensation. Pressure to reach a result pulls her out of her body and into her head. Permission to stay exactly where she is allows sensation to expand naturally. Depth comes from staying, not from chasing. There's also the role of reassurance without words. Calm presence communicates safety. Steady attention communicates care. When there's no sense of impatience, no checking out, no frustration, her nervous system settles further. And as it settles, her capacity to feel increases. Women are especially sensitive to incongruence. If words say one thing but energy says another, the body notices. Authenticity matters. Being genuinely engaged matters. Doing something because you want to be there, not because you think you should, changes the entire quality of the experience. Another layer is respect for transitions, transitions into intimacy, transitions within it, transitions afterward. When transitions are gentle and intentional, the experience feels whole rather than abrupt. Abruptness can jolt the nervous system. Gentleness allows continuity. Many people underestimate how powerful emotional containment is. Emotional containment means she feels held without being controlled, supported without being directed, free to express without being analyzed. That containment creates a sense of grounding that allows her to fully inhabit her body. And then there is curiosity, real curiosity. Not curiosity about how well you're doing, but curiosity about her experience. What does she respond to? What makes her relax more? What makes her lean in? Curiosity keeps attention outward and present instead of self-focused. Women also respond strongly to feeling prioritized in the moment. No distractions, no divided attention, no sense that something else is more important. When the moment is treated as sacred rather than casual, it deepens naturally. Another important point is emotional aftercare, even if it's subtle. Staying present emotionally after intensity allows the nervous system to integrate the experience. It tells her that connection wasn't conditional, that warmth didn't disappear once the moment shifted. This reinforces trust for future intimacy. The most impactful experiences are rarely about doing something extraordinary. They are about doing ordinary things with extraordinary presence, about slowing down enough to notice, about caring enough to adjust, about being secure enough not to rush. And when intimacy is approached this way, patient, attuned, emotionally grounded, it continues to unfold layer by layer, each moment building on the last, without force, without urgency, without needing an ending to feel complete. So understand this clearly. The most powerful intimacy is never about skill, speed, or proving anything. It is about presence. It is about emotional safety. It is about making a woman feel so deeply respected, seen, and unrushed that her body naturally responds without being pushed. When you stop chasing outcomes and start honoring experience, everything changes. When you replace ego with awareness, performance with patience, and intensity with attunement, intimacy stops being something you do and becomes something that happens. And that is the difference between temporary pleasure and a moment that stays with her long after it's over. Because what truly overwhelms a woman is not what you take, but how deeply you make her feel safe enough to give.